Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It is great to see you this morning. This is not our usual morning, and this is also not our usual time. But I want to record our second video because on Monday we started talking about the hooked rugs that are to be found at, don't let me screw this up, Hagley House Museum in Delaware. I think this is Wilmington or just outside Wilmington. In any case, I was there last, this thing always has a hiccup. I was there last weekend with Shannon, and we kind of stumbled into the house expecting to find some beautiful Christmas decorations, which we did. But we also found an incredible amount of hooked rugs that are historic and important. And we started talking about those on Monday. I do want to make a more complete survey of Hagley House in the near future because there were so many rugs. If you remember, Cheryl, good to see you from windy. Is it still windy on Cape Cod? It was so windy here yesterday. I had to cancel my trip to Newport. I was supposed to be in Newport doing a final deal and talking numbers about the Tigger 2027, and it was such bad weather forecast. I think you got it worse out that way than we did here, kind of interior Oceanside, New Haven. Rita, good morning. Great to see you. So we were looking at some of these rugs, and I think a lot of them are really important rugs, but unfortunately they are hiding behind furniture and under beds and in all kinds of places where one is not likely to be able to get a good head-on view of the rug, of the age, and to sort of record it mentally at least. Linda, good to see you. Good morning. So I wanted to just conclude that because, you know, this is it, isn't it? We search for rugs. We love rugs because we hook rugs. We understand that there is this beautiful, long, sort of romantic history to handmade rugs, and it's not in front of everybody's face all the time. You have to kind of work for it, and you know you can spend infinite time as we have going down rabbit holes on the internet looking for rugs that are in different places, looking for rugs that have not been found and seen yet, looking through old auction catalogs. Robin, good to see you. And it can go, Sandy, good to see you. It can go on and on like this, but you still are not going to catch all the rugs because if I saw this book in a, for example, used bookstore, it says Eleutherian Mills, right? That was the name of the actual mill. It's in gold. If I saw this, I might pick it up just out of curiosity because I love history, but I would not be expecting to find a great source of early hooked rugs, and there is a great source of early hooked rugs. In fact, this is about the house and the family, and this is something that's available from the Hagley House Museum bookstore. I don't know if they ship, but it's there. It's a small little book, but I have been enjoying it immensely. It's $13, so I got this past weekend. Focus on furniture, right? The colonial revival furniture that populates this beautiful, much earlier, like 1820s house. So the book looks like this, and inside they've got, if you can see here, this is the photo I showed on Monday, and it was behind glass, so I got an awful reflection, but you can see that in the early 20th century, there were a series of hooked rugs lining the floor, right? As soon as you walked through the door and entered the hall, it was rug after rug after rug. There's 4 rugs in that picture. And 2 dogs. So we are seeing in this book a lot of the pretty rugs that we're looking at also on today's show and on Monday's show. But again, point is, who would ever expect to find such beautiful rugs in a little book like this? And note to self, when you're cruising around, no matter where you are, look for books like this because you never know. You know, the funny thing is typically houses that look like this, right? Like an early 19th century house. It's like a Greek revival style house. It's very grand. It's meant to be very grand and impressive, right? And the only reason that it has this kind of feminine, decor is because Louise, who is the last DuPont to live in the house, loved textiles and she loved hooked rugs. And if it wasn't for that, the house would remain very austere in its appearance, right? Because it is that era of house. So, you know, it's a don't judge a book by its cover kind of a situation. You just don't know until you open it or walk inside what you're going to find. Everything, it all comes down to the taste of the person who owned the house. We assume looking at a house like this, it's someone who had money to collect whatever they wanted. And we're very lucky that Louise collected hooked rugs because now in 2024, nearly 2025, we get to look at them together. And that really is a lot of fun. I want to do something during the course of the show today, too, that kind of harkens back to this era of rug collecting and these specific rugs. I was thinking about how we said in the last episode on Monday, Catherine, good to see you. Also loving these old rugs. Thank you. You received Magpie 4 and it's a beauty. It is a beauty. Oh, that reminds me. Shoot, I didn't have time to put it into the show. There is going to be a free pattern up today. It's probably up already. Let me see if I can find the image. It's a free pattern for Magpie number 5, which will be the spring issue 2025 Busy Bees. And it looks like this. You'll see it. I'll put a link after the show. I'll put a link to it on this video and also in our Facebook page, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club. And I'll make a post in YouTube for subscribers who weren't watching the show. That will go up as a free pattern. And my hope is that a lot of people will hook it whatever size you want, however you want, in your own style, whatever you like. And I would like to turn that into one of the features in the next Magpie. Just looking at, you know how we did G's Bend, not in this current issue, but the issue before. And it was just so much fun looking at different people's interpretations of the same design. I'd like to do that with this design. It's a very simple line drawing, very primitive. You should be able to dig in pretty much any medium. If you're in a hook it, punch it, mini punch it, quilt it, cross stitch it, whatever. Latch hook it. Might even work in latch hook if it's big enough. Do it in whatever medium you want and see how it goes. But I'd like to collect those before the deadline of February 1st and put those into a feature article for Magpie. So see if you can get a jump start on that over the holidays. Lisa, great to see you. Happy Thursday. You know, I wasn't even supposed to be here today. I was supposed to be at the British Art Center at Yale today with my girlfriend Sherry, and we were going to meet my sister who we've all known each other forever, and we were going to see what paintings my sister was working on, but Sherry got sick, so that is postponed. And I am here, and I needed to be here anyway because we were going to conclude this episode. Now, in looking at the rugs in this house, right, one of the conversations that came up on Monday was, what are the rugs made out of? Are they all wool? They're not all wool, right? They're rags. And it made me think about times in the past when I have gone to like antique stores, like all the time. Occasionally I find some beautiful rags, rag balls, and rag balls, and you know, they look like this. And they really are, they're rags. It's leftover stuff that someone had, and in most cases, the person, and we'll look at these close up together in a little while, but in most cases, the person literally sewed together scraps of material that she had. And I deliberately said she, right? Because this is definitely women's work at this point. This is old, these are old rags. This person has cut up some brown, what looks like, I don't know. This is, well, this got to be early 20th century because that looks synthetic. That looks like rayon. And then some sort of prints, just a little bit. Look at that little bit of blue. That's all there was. And she's putting them all together, right? Because they're all precious and they're all scraps of something else. And you can see with a rag ball like this, it goes from dark to light and light to dark. And for doing a hit or miss rug, it is a fun thing to have that kind of interruption to your color plan. But in some cases, you really want some lights and some darks. So I'll start hooking with this a little bit later. We'll see how it goes. I've got these are a lot of rayons or synthetics. This is a chiffon for sure. So there are lots of different materials in this rag ball. And as I unravel it, there's silk for sure. There's no wool, right? And this is a typical rag ball, this very stiff taffeta. So I'll have to see if I can even work with that. And you can see it still has some stitches on it from something that was left over or cut up. And I was expecting to see a little bit of velvet, but so far I haven't. I've never opened this rag ball. But you can see the colors. It's like a rainbow. Just keeps coming. Isn't it beautiful? And there's going to be some repeats at the end, I think. So who knows what's going on, you know. In terms of sourcing, that's another pretty print, almost like a kimono. In terms of sourcing, and that one ends, but then there's still a little bit left of very different colors, lots of purples in there. This is how it was done back in the day. You would save every single scrap. That's why rug hooking is known as a thrift craft, because if you were thrifty, you would save everything. And some very shiny silks in there. This is the second ball that was in the basket. I got these two balls and maybe like, I don't know, four more were in one lot. This is when I was in Pennsylvania, I think last year. And I think it was maybe something like, I don't know, $20 to $30 to get a whole basket of these. But the other ones were calicos and cottons. So while they were lovely, I didn't feel as I have them in a separate thing. These are the ones I'm really interested in. And, oh, Karen, good morning. Good to see you. These are the ones I'm really interested in. And what I want to do later after we look at some of the slideshow, I thought I would just create a very fast pattern on a scrap of linen. And I have a piece of paper to make a template, because what I want to do with that material is make a border. And I want to distinguish, as I unroll it, between the parts of it that are dark and the parts of it that are light. And it can be that pink, for example, falls into dark because it's dark pink, right? Because we're talking about value. We're not talking about the actual color. So we'll see how that goes. And I thought maybe I would create a small pattern here and end up putting a bee or something in the center of it, something for magpie. But I thought if I could lay out the border and start hooking with it, we could see how these old rag balls might hook up. They're all going to be different because each one of these is made out of like what, 20 different materials. So they're all going to hook up differently, and they will for you too. But you do see them out in the big world. You do see them at antique stores and vintage stores, and it is fun to pick them up because you can use them, but you have to use them in a hit or miss style, right? Or for a background, a big background. You're not going to be able to use them to do detailed stuff because it's going to be a very confusing and eclectic color palette. We'll find out in a little while. Jessica, good to see you. Good morning. You're out with pup. It's only 18 degrees. Wow. Oh, it's very cold. Very cold. Nikki, oh, great to see you again. Welcome back. Good morning. Yeah, this isn't one of my normal times. It was just like I can't be with you all on Friday because we're going to my mom's tomorrow night to get her Christmas tree and put her Christmas tree up. So I won't be around on Friday. And also, I keep forgetting to say, I won't be around on Monday. I'm sorry. We're getting into that crazy season because Teddy's birthday, he's turning 13 on the 17th, and we are going to New York City Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and coming home Wednesday. That's crazy, right? 3 nights. So I booked at a downtown hotel that we love staying at, and we will have easy access to Nintendo, of course, FAO Schwartz, the Lego store, both of them. It should be a very fun time. So I will keep a lookout for when the live times will be because it'll be a little bit spotty heading through December. And be looking for more It's All Gravy videos because I'm working on that now too. Yeah, turning 13. I can't believe it. He's actually sick today. He's upstairs. So he might make a cameo appearance later, hopefully with his pants on. Let's see. All right, so let's come back to Monday's episode and let's look at where we left off because we were having a great conversation about some of these old rugs at Hagley House in Delaware. I just wanted to let you know that, I'm sorry, Pedro, the mailman, is here. That's why Buttons is losing his mind. There was beautiful decorating happening at Hagley House. Christmas decorations, abounding in every room. Beautiful, old-fashioned, much more typical than tabletop trees, right? Coming from Germany, the Christmas tree, just period, coming from Germany. But specifically the tabletop Christmas tree as seen in Prince of Victoria and Albert celebrating with tabletop trees, and then finally with a really large floor tree, which quickly came into fashion in the U.S. too. But the decorations were just beautiful. It gives you several reasons to want to visit this house in this season because the rugs are it's countless. It's unending. And it was really like a little bit of a wind up for me just because when I see a rug, I want to see it close up and I want to photograph it, and that just wasn't really possible. So it was a bit frustrating, but I was also very, very excited to see rugs in some patterns that I believe completely to be not commercial patterns, but designs I've never seen before. Going to be exciting, isn't it? I just wish I could have got a little bit closer for you with some of these. This one you can see fairly well. I think I've got a closer up photo of it. The thing about this house and stepping back from the rug or the textile angle, let's re-enter this conversation by saying the thing about this house is it's an older house, right? And it started to be lived in by Louise DuPont, right? I looked up her name because I didn't remember her name on Monday. And she brought into it a new style, right? A new aesthetic, her taste. And she was living there as a female, I think, by herself with her dogs, and she decorated it the way that she wanted to. And the thing about the early 20th century, can that animal go outside? Sorry, I'm in a fine mood. I really am. It's just driving me crazy, and maybe you too. The thing about this period in history in the United States is that we went from the Victorian period to the colonial revival period. And hardly anybody ever talks about the colonial revival period anymore. And it's a really interesting and important moment in American life because it marks that, it was a very small moment in history. It marks that time when, I'm going to get you the years right now. Hold on. I'll get you the exact years just in case you're interested. The exact time between the American Industrial Revolution, which obviously kicked up all kinds of manufacturing and interest. And let me just Google this. Colonial revival. It's going to have a wide bracket of years. It's not exactly as wide as it'll say. So it says, oh, interesting. It says it is attributed. Oh, this is interesting. I think I knew this and I forgot this. Officially, it starts in 1876, the colonial revival movement, as a sort of reaction to the 1876, which was the 100-year anniversary of the U.S. becoming a country, right? Winning the war. There was a centennial celebration in Pennsylvania, which we've talked about a lot because it was basically like an early World's Fair, right? Well, not early. The World's Fair was going to be soon after that in St. Louis. But the centennial was different because you were meant to, if you went, you would see products from all of the different states and parts of the country and also other countries. So it was meant to show progress and what was new from region to region, right? To celebrate the economy, to celebrate the business, right? All of the different types of business that were cropping up at that time. And so a lot of people went. It was like a crazy amount of people went and saw all of these displays of things that were now being manufactured during the Industrial Revolution, right? So the end of the 19th century for us here in the U.S. And I think just thinking back to reading on this moment in history, I think people felt like everything was being made by a machine, and that somehow it kicked up, right? The sort of acknowledgement that everything around you was manufactured. It kicked up an awareness for a lot of people that there was nothing handmade around them anymore. And I think it triggered a sort of national nostalgia, sense of nostalgia or lost nostalgia. People start, as they would when the pendulum swings, people start thinking about what their grandmother used to do with her hands, what she used to make, what she used to cook, all of those things now being made by machines. And people had a very visible reaction to it. And the pendulum swung very far at that time. And it went from being that sort of Victorian aesthetic of, let's have lots of everything. Let's buy it all from a catalog. Let's get 10 of everything, right? Because everything is being manufactured, so it's fairly affordable. Let's get 10 of everything. Let's have it all in our house. Let's layer things. Let's layer things upon things. It went from being that, right? But not a single thing has real sentimental value, to the colonial revival movement. And that literally meant going back to colonial times. And the idea was that colonial crafts would become important again, like furniture making, like making textiles, bed covers, weaving. If you think about the famous photographer Wallace Nutting, and I know I've done a show on this exact subject in the past, if you Google Wallace Nutting in my shows, he always showed interior. He was a photographer of the most famous photographer of the colonial revival movement. And he would literally go from house to house, houses like this, and he would stage rooms by putting down furniture that looked colonial. And it might be colonial or it might be brand new, made to look colonial, so like replicas, right? people were buying them like crazy because that was the trend in clothing, in furniture, in handcrafts, in decorating, in life, right? It really took over. So when we look at Nutting's photographs, they're all tinted. He's got, in every one, he's got multiple braided rugs with very few exceptions. Beautiful. And they appeal to me because they're wool rugs and they remind me of those early days of rug making. But braided rugs were not part of colonial life. People did not have braided rugs down on the floor, nor did they have hooked rugs down on the floor. So when Nutting shows these things in his photograph as like a window into an early 20th century window into colonial life, it's not actually correct, but good enough, right? It gives you the vibe, it gives you the feels. You think about those days romantically and nostalgically and say, oh, isn't it nice when people do make stuff with their hands? So it's because of this movement, and it's because Louise lived during this time, Louise Dupont, that she was interested in this stuff. And without a doubt, the reason she started thinking about buying, collecting, and seeking out hooked rugs was because she was kind of seduced by this colonial revival movement. And that is that's not my opinion. That's a pretty solid hypothesis based on the way that her house is decorated, right? With her furniture in it. Hey, Diane. Oh, Sandy says, my son works at St. Thomas Church and Japan Society in New York City. Oh, you're kidding. That is so neat. Unrelated, just the word Japan. But Jossie was lamenting that the Pokemon Center is no longer in New York City. Obviously, there's one in Japan, but there's not one in New York City. So I was going to be looking for some different stuff for us to do. Nikki says, I love the Industrial Revolution. I'm happy to have gotten fabric cutters, Rigby and Ridgeway, that are vintage and manufactured. Yeah, it's great to have those old tools. You just change the heads on them and you're all good. Heidi, Goedemorgen in Dutch-speaking Belgium. Great to see you this morning. Hello, everybody. Certainly. Een heel mooi verdag voor Teddy. Oh, he will. He will have a great birthday, and I will send him your regards. It will be a great, actually, 4 days. We are really, we're really doing it this year. 3 nights in New York City, man. Woo! Thank you for the orders, is all I can say. So, looking at this shot, right, and I'm looking at the rug. Of course I'm looking at the rug. But my point is, with that sort of preface, look at the way that the room is decorated. This is colonial revival. This is what it looks like. It's these lighter colors. It's a little bit more austere. It is not a cover. It is not, for the most part, wall-to-wall floor woven rugs. A little bit, occasionally, in rooms that need to be warm. But in general, it's scattered rugs. You want to see the wood floors, just like the olden days. You want Windsor-type chairs. You want ladder-back chairs. You want chairs and architecture and furniture that looks like it existed during the colonial period. That's what people want, and that's what they're buying, and that's what is being made. Over on the right, really caught my eye, I bet it caught yours too, is a sewing table. That pretty light, whatever it is, bird's eye maple or whatever that light wood sewing table is, kind of an oval shape. That is such a piece of history. That is very special. There's obviously some turning on it. It is an exceptional version of a wooden sewing table, because you do see these all the time. But when you, I've said this before and I'm going to keep saying it forever, when you see these tables, make sure you open the top, because you see how on the sides it's kind of a half moon compartment on both sides. It is very often that this sewing table has a secret compartment at the bottom of one of those sides. And I know that because I have found them. The first time I found one, I bought one at a yard sale. It was not this nice. And I was going through the contents that was just a bunch of, sewing stuff that was left. And it was exciting. And I got to the bottom, and my brain is fairly symmetrical, believe it or not, because I put my hand into one side and my brain went, it's not that far down. The other side is farther down, isn't it? And then I opened both sides and emptied them, and I put my hands in at the same time. And sure enough, the one on the right was way more shallow. And so I thought, holy crap, is there going to be a copy of the Constitution in this thing? And no, there wasn't. There was like more sewing supplies. But it did have a secret compartment that opened when you opened the door of the body of it and pulled out the drawer. There was a drawer that pulled out when the other drawer was, you know what I mean? You open the door, pull out the drawer, take it out, And then there's another drawer that pulls in from the sideways that goes, that has a U shape to it that goes into the bottom of that right-hand side. I bet you this one did because this is an older one. Not all of them do, but since then, every time I find one of these style sewing cabinets, I do that experiment, and I have found other ones. None of them had the Constitution in them, but I have found other ones that did have that little secret hiding place, which I think is interesting and worthy of looking at and looking in. So beautiful rug here, and I think we looked at this one. I'm not sure we looked at this one. No, we didn't look at this one. This is the one that was on the floor right next to the sewing cabinet. You can see the corner of it at this moment is getting bleached by the sun. This is another really lovely, unusual rug. This has got to be a commercial pattern. It is very irregular. It seems like on one side, the person, the top side in this case, the person was thinking about doing something that had a base of branches or maybe some interlocking vines as a skeletal kind of placeholder for the border, but chose against it in the end because we just get a couple of stick-like forms, and then the rest is all leaves, quite wilted leaves at that, which puts me in mind of a season, right? When I see this for me is a confusion of the season's rug because I'm seeing wilted leaves and I'm thinking autumn, but then in the middle I'm seeing a tiger lily and I'm thinking summer, beginning of summer at that, and lots of roses. Of course, there's some roses in bloom right now in my neighborhood, so they're not always a great indicator of the season. But it does seem like a bit of a mixed season with this rug, and maybe part of it is because it has a very brown baseline, doesn't it? And I don't usually like brown, but this is another brown rug that really, really grabs me. Good to see you, Catherine. I like the khaki center, and I like that chocolate brown border, and doesn't it work well with the blues, the soft reds? We're not really seeing any pastels here, and maybe that's the reason it's working. It's sometimes when there's like values of brown. Nikki, this is probably a mishmash of things. And Nikki, I think right before you logged on, I was talking about the idea of having a rag ball, like keeping all your leftover cuts from clothing and projects and material that you found, right? And this would be the kind of stuff that people would be hooking with. So in a few minutes, I'm going to just hook with this onto the backing, and we'll look at what some of these materials are. Some of it could have been yarn, but the cut seems really wide to me in this case. So if it is yarn, chances are it's doubled up, tripled up, quadrupled up, so like many ply. I didn't get a feel for it with this rug, so probably just cut up material, I think. Yarn was definitely a thing, like hooking with yarn, definitely a thing, still a thing. But I think with this early rug, I think it's cut up material. It really is lovely, and that white rose prominent in the center, at the bottom or the top, depending on how you look at it. You know, a lot of people, when they design these kinds of rugs, were thinking about having it on the floor, obviously, and approaching it from more than one direction. And that's a thought, right? Going right through the Pearl McGowan era, if the rug is meant to be on the floor, you know, you do need to consider, oh, Betty Ann, great to see you. Hello from Quebec City, my love. I'm still thinking about that Shedicomp class coming up. Oh, man. Betty Ann is on, the queen of Shedicomp. Great to see you. So, you know, when you're thinking about putting a rug on the floor, it's a different conversation than if you are planning to put it up on the wall, right? And it's a picture. If it's on the floor, you're anticipating that people will approach it from different angles. Maybe it's on a threshold, in a doorway, that kind of thing. But regardless, the chances of someone approaching it from more than one side is like almost 100%, depending on where you intend to put it. And for that reason, we tend to see a lot of these early rugs that don't have an orientation, not the pictorials with animals and houses. Obviously, you can't get around that. Actually, you can get around that if you think about the kinds of compositions that Claire Murray did with the village around the edge and then the village green just open in the center. You can get around that. But yeah, we are looking at 19th century rugs for sure. And here's another beauty. Again, I couldn't get super close to many of these rugs because of the cords that were up. If I was my Aunt Joan, may she rest in peace, and we miss her so much at this time of year, I would do what she routinely did, which is just step over the cord. I'm not kidding. She just used to step over like the velvet cord in historic houses, and the docents just did not know what to say. And she was so elegant. She taught at, I shouldn't say this maybe, but Salve Regina University in Newport for like almost 60 years. Head of the English department, theater department, brilliant person, a little bit entitled, maybe a little bit entitled. And her classic saying, and I should make a rug that says this, was, people with inner dignity are never embarrassed. So like that would, that would mean that you would have the sort of will to step over the cords, just into the room, pick up the stuff, look at it, take the photos. I don't have that kind of nerve yet. I don't have enough inner dignity for that, I don't think. But man, it was tempting. This is a Waldoboro rug, and it has been trotted down a little bit. And it makes me think, because it is so clean, I'm wondering if we're talking about ladies' slipper feet on this, because this is not a dirty rug for a Waldoboro rug with a white ground. Now, Waldoboro, if you're new to the craft, means that there is some height. Waldoboro rugs were hooked very, very, very dense in places. In this case, the flowers, not the borders, not the background, just the three-dimensional flowers, hooked very, very dense, and then cut with a pair of scissors like a pom-pom to shape it so that you have three-dimensional relief on this style of rug. I think I have one. Yeah, this maybe you can see it a little bit better, the high relief on this. So we've got a very traditional rug with a scroll, leafy scroll border, and in the center, a collection of very petite, very simple flowers, right? No shading, just very simple round flowers, little collection of them with some leaves that you can see the colors have been seriously bleached out, because those leaves certainly were not white. Oh, I'd love to flip this rug over, wouldn't you? But what beautiful colors, and making lemonade here, what beautiful colors this rug has mellowed out to be, right? I would like to know what the original colors are, but these are quite lovely. So Waldoboro rugs were originally used in Waldoboro, Maine, the town of Waldoboro, in the winter when, at least as the story goes, burials happened and flowers weren't growing. And in place of putting a wreath of flowers on a coffin, women were making rugs with three-dimensional flowers and putting them on the coffin. And then I was told during an episode of Coffee Time, I think, I learned, it was a great nugget to know, that the rugs were then taken back off the coffin before it went in the ground and got covered. It was just sort of the idea of having flowers down as the coffin descended. So the rugs were not lost, because I have thought, about all of those many beautiful graveyards in Waldoboro and how many rugs are under there, and apparently, hopefully, none. So you're seeing the corner on the bottom right of the Waldoboro rug, and in the distance you're seeing another rug that I could not get any closer to. It looks more like a commercial pattern, that one, I have to say, at the foot of the bed. It's the black ground with a very elaborate scroll in pinks. Now, you see Louise DuPont really liked rugs that had a sort of a female flavor to them. Lots of pinks. You can't say, just think about it, make a quick little survey in your head, a little tour. Most Promogown era rugs, flower rugs in general, 20th century rugs, they're not necessarily pink, right? We're getting lots of colors, but not necessarily pink. Maybe some pink flowers, but the ones that Louise finds, and this is her bedroom, why there are so many sort of spectator chairs in there, your guess is as good as mine, because it wasn't that era of giving notes from like the bed to your secretary. But she liked the rugs that had a very female touch and a lot of pinks. And they do look really lovely throughout this house. Also in this house, it's worth saying, not a hooked rug, but this is a floor cloth. And I know you all know what that is. Making floor cloths became popular during the colonial revival period through the 1920s, right? Because even though it starts in 1886 officially, I think the impetus was that centennial event. But after that, it was quite a few years, right, until we get kind of into the arts and crafts movement, colonial revival time, when people really are picking up crafts again and doing old crafts. So the colonial revival movement, I would say, goes through the 1920s without a doubt. And during the 20s, painting floor cloths became popular again, and again in the 1980s. A floor cloth is basically a piece of fine linen or canvas, right? Like a material a painter would paint a painting onto. And you would hem the edges by sewing them, tucking them under, and you would just paint the cloth. So is it plush and warm and soft? No. But it is another layer. It is protecting the floor. It creates a beautiful pattern without painting the floor. It's just another layer in between, right? It's probably it does something for heat, retaining heat, right? But floor cloth's very popular, and this is a nice early American design, right? This is a stencil design from colonial era, but this one obviously is much newer, and it really is beautiful. It was like almost the entire size of the room, a very heavy kind of glaze medium. You pick the one you want. You would cover the floor cloth with at the end if you wanted to. Many floor cloths were like waxy or flat matte finish. This one had very high gloss. So it would be up to you, just as with the painting, do you want to add varnish or don't you? You don't have to, right? You don't have to at all. But in this case, there's a lot of varnish on this floor cloth, and it is really lovely. Another exceptional rug. This is right next to, I think, what is a trundle bed or a sleigh bed, maybe both. But really, I think in this room, this was being used as kind of a day bed, like a chaise lounge. Exceptional design, really different. I don't know at all if this is a commercial design. My guess would be that it's not. The paisley border is very unusual and really, really striking. The flowers in the middle confuse me a little bit. We don't normally see compositions of flowers in pairs because two of something is not as interesting of a composition as three. That's just basic composition. It's also opinion, right? If you like things in twos, then you do things in twos. But in general, we don't see compositions leaning on even numbers, right? Unless we're talking about something Penn Dutch that is also symmetrical. So this is a little bit unusual, seeing the two. You would expect one with lots of small flowers, or maybe three, or a big bouquet, but two is a little bit unusual. So it makes me think it is not a commercial pattern, although I could be wrong. I have never seen this before. It also makes me think of the possibility of this just being like a welcome mat rug that someone has added a border to, or maybe there was a very large border on the material to begin with. It might be that it was a commercial pattern of a welcome mat with or without the words welcome, right? Because it seems like there's a gap, a little bit more of a gap on one side. And maybe somebody added the paisley border. Not impossible. You know how I could find out is if I was able to get in there and turn this rug upside down. I would be curious because there is a real mismatch, and it is charming, but there is a mismatch between the rose rug, which to me reads as the proportions of a welcome mat, and a paisley border, which is a bit more exotic, right? It's kind of the opposite of a rose rug. And done it really in the style of paisleys, right? Like really Eastern paisleys, not Pearl McGowan paisleys. Interesting. I thought it was another beautiful rug and an unusual color palette. Just another angle looking at this rug. Beautiful marble cake colors, but a lot of directional hooking. No marble cake hooking, just straight shots. Seems to me like the person was really going for speed with the background. It seems like it, doesn't it, Nikki? It's a real mismatch. This person was trying to do a lot of detail on the roses. There's lots of lines, lots of color shift, but I wouldn't say that they're realistic, right? I would say that the person was trying to make them look realistic and it wasn't altogether successful, but they're also not done in a graphic manner. It's kind of something in between. Really beautiful example. I would love to see this rug closer up. I think we could get lots more information looking at it a little bit closer together. Now, when we got to the last room of this house, and this is, I think, the image that is behind me as well. Yep. This is like the maybe dining hall for, I feel like the servants. It was downstairs. It was downstairs where the kitchen was. And I don't think it's decorated for the era of the servants, but you can see the flagstone floor, and it was very cold in this room. It led right to the outside. There were two kitchens downstairs, a beautiful big butler's pantry, some meandering halls, but it's very, very cold and dark down there. This room is important for us as rug hookers because I learned from the tour guide, oh, I love that table too, beautiful farmhouse table, isn't it? And it's got like the cross bearing on it, the footing. Really, really pretty. Oh, you could have some real parties here, right? Beautiful terrine and some sandwiches, and they were eating off pewter. Um, and that's an interesting subject too, because some historians say people didn't really eat off pewter, except in the colonial period, right? Like Paul Revere, right? He was like the famous pewter maker of that time. People say that later on, people would not have eaten off pewter because it wouldn't have tasted good. The food wouldn't have tasted good. It would have tasted metallic. But this table is set for the 20th century with a pewter setting. Other historians say, yes, of course, people took out pewter at Christmas because it was shiny and it looked pretty. I don't know. I'm not going to try it though. I have too many fillings in my head to try eating soup out of a pewter bowl. Just not going to take that chance. So, what's important about this room for us is that you see that I don't know what breed of sheep that is. It's an Italian breed of sheep in the background there. And his name, I think, I'm going on memory here, but I think it was something like Don Pedro, something like that. San Pedro, Don Pedro, I think Don Pedro. Um, at this point, right, and this is pre-Louise. So during the years that the DuPont mill was making gunpowder, remember in Monday's episode, they weren't always wealthy, and they weren't always making a great living with the gunpowder until the American Industrial Revolution. So they tried experimenting with other industries. There's lots of mills on the property. So they tried making other stuff that might be a bit more saleable and change their money situation for the better. So they experimented with wool and making wool. But they struggled with the breeds of sheep that were available immediately to them in that region, right? So the local sheep, in other words, were not producing great wool. And this was a problem. Once they diagnosed the problem, this was a problem. And they thought, okay, so at least we know what the problem is. We might still successfully make wool, but these sheep are not going to give us the highest quality kind of wool. So it's going to be hard to compete in the market, right? So what they did was somebody in the family went over to Italy and they saw the wool, ironically, Italy, like that they were producing there, and it was a much higher quality of wool. And they saw that this breed of sheep was producing that wool. So one of these sheep was brought over from Italy to Delaware and put on the property, right? The property of the mills. And he was made to and meant to breed with the other girl sheep and produce. The idea was that all of the wool would be a little bit better, right, because of his contribution. So Don Pedro, so he's a quite famous sheep, and a lot of the stuff at Hagley House has him on it. Like he's one of the emblems, even though they ended up making all of their fortune from gunpowder. He represents kind of that early history of them trying to figure out how to make ends meet and what is going to strike, right? You throw enough stuff in, sooner or later something is going to stick. And that's part of the Don Pedro era. So I thought that was an interesting part of the story. And certainly it was a beautiful room to be in. So let's keep going. I'm going to run over for sure today, but let's see how it goes. Oh, so the next day was the Woolmingtons party. It was the hook-in. So here I am in my ugly sweater dress. I made this from on Amazon. I got a dress, a sweatshirt dress. So not a sweatshirt, a sweatshirt dress. And I found some, you can't see here, but green and black checkered tights. And the dress really was too big in the end. But I was able to sew on all of these metallic Christmas trees and make my own ugly sweater. And then I put a bunch of red Christmas bows from Michael's on around the neck, just on the front. So here we are having a great party, going from left to right. Here's Lois, who did the Yankee swap. She hosted the Yankee swap where we swapped gifts and stole from each other and all of that. Dee, second to left, right? She formed the Woolmington. She is like the face of the sweet face of the organizer, the friend, right? She is like the heart of the Woolmingtons. And then I'm there, and on the right, Cindy is there, and she's got her Santa hat on. We had such a good day. such a good day. And a moment before that photo was taken, we had our crackers, our Christmas crackers, and we popped them. And that's how we got our crowns and our Rubik's Cubes and all of the fun stuff that we had. I think Dee was taking the picture here because she was standing next to me. And as soon as she took the picture, she grabbed the, I think it was me and, is that Nancy? Elaine, maybe me, Elaine. I'm still learning all the ladies' names because I've only been there twice. It was a wonderful day. Nikki says, I wanted to go to an artisan tour when I was in Italy in 2019. We could plan a trip to go abroad for artisans and textiles. You know what? I would love that. I would really love that. We can do that. We've been talking about traveling together more often. And it's getting to a place where I feel like I can plan it. Nikki, I planned, because you just came into the group. Thank God for you. I'm glad you're here. We just had a book party in the Berkshires when my Halloween book just came out. And I planned it, like it had a cap because I wasn't sure how it was going to work. But that was the first event I planned on my own and figured stuff out. And the more I figure stuff out, the more confident I feel about planning bigger stuff. And really, before I was a mom, I was a tour guide for like years. That was like my job. And I did that for years, and I was super experienced and confident about doing it, but I didn't plan those tours. The tour operator planned the tours, and I just ran the tours on the bus. So I understand so much of it, and I'm piecing it all together, and I think we should plan some really fun stuff and do a lot more traveling, both here and abroad, in the next couple of years. Like, let's get started. So I'm with you on that. I would be totally all up for that. All right, let's see. And okay, so one more picture of us at the Woolmingtons. Super fun. It really was so super fun. It was, yeah, it's just such a good high energy group. And Elizabeth on the far left, it was her birthday that day. She turned 90 something. It wasn't 90, it was 90 something. She was outside feeding the squirrels. She was working on a new rug, furiously hooking away like a machine. It was incredible. Oh, sorry, I put those in too soon. This is another rug picture left over from Hagley House. Let's look at this together because this is important. This has historical importance. So as I was saying, we're looking mostly during the colonial revival period at decorating with floor at not wall-to-wall carpets, but scattered carpets. It's the vogue, right, at the time. You want to see the floor. You want to know that you have the wealth to have a wood floor. Incidentally, it's a wealth thing, right? Do you have a wood floor or not? Incidentally, a lot of houses had large area carpets that would cover the center of the floor, where a less expensive wood like pine would be in the whole middle of the floor, and you would cover that with a rug, but then on the rest of the floor, the edges, it would be something more like oak that was way more expensive. So when people walked in the room, they would think your whole floor was oak, but you actually had a giant custom carpet that was covering up the pine flooring, which was not expensive, and you did not want people to know that. So there is still a need for larger carpets. Now, this is not a hooked rug. This is a loomed rug. And see, in this is probably loomed in the United States, because see with your eyes, I'm going to show you a better picture. See with your eyes instead of your elbow. Do you see where the seams are in this rug? The seams are there because the loom was not wide. And that's why I think it's an American rug, because in the US, until much later, right, until much, much later, we did not have looms. We did not have manufacturing houses, factories that could create anything wider than this. This was the extent of what we had. If you wanted a rug that had a wider panel or one piece, you would have to get that from abroad, right? You would have to import that. In the US, we did not have, coming out of the war, right? Coming out of the late 18th century into the early 19th century, we did not have everything in place at that point. We had been buying a lot of stuff from the UK, and then with all of the embargoes and the fighting and the, all bets being off, we were not importing as much. We didn't have the same stuff, and we were figuring out how to make do with the machines that we had. And those machines had very, very narrow looms. So we're looking at carpets that are pieced together by sewing them together in strips. And they are made to match, right? Because it's supposed to kind of trick your eye into thinking it is a much larger imported carpet, but it's obviously not. It is obviously pieced together in panels. Yeah, exactly. So interesting. I mean, it's all interesting. And in this house, you know, they had extra little touches like this. Like the colonial revival is the pewter thing too, because I think Paul Revere, right? Him being like a silversmith and doing so much with pewter um, and copper and everything, right? That was one of the really big looks of the 1700s, right? If you think about the Revolutionary years, what people were drinking out of in taverns, like pewter mugs, right, with glass bottoms, right? So pewter everywhere in this house, but they had such pretty arrangements of like dried flowers, so colorful, and everything was so pretty. It really was um, Christmassy. I mean, you can see here the pencil tree, beautiful staircase. Louise put the staircase in because she wanted a very feminine grand staircase to make really big appearances like entrances, because a house like this would have had a straight staircase, right? Because this is like an early 1800s house, a Georgian style house. She added the sweeping sort of gilded age stairway, but that's one of the only changes. I think it might be the only change that she made. Beautiful banisters and stuff, but they decorated so well in the house. It's so festive, you know. There's white poinsettias all over the place. And you know, the next day, I'm not going to forget to hook with you. Ooh, see, this is what's going on with my green screen. This drives me crazy. I'm just going to shut these lights off. Um, I'm struggling with the green screen because the changes in light. I thought it was my computer, but I think that's not helping, is it? I'm going to come closer to you. Let's see if it focuses. Um, really makes me angry. Really makes me angry. Um, Hold on just a second. I'm going to see. Stay with me for a second. I'm going to see if I can shut this off while I'm live here. Shut off the green screen. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Well, it's coming back. You see, it's like fading back in. It's been driving me out of my mind. I was going to try to run a show yesterday morning. This got me. This got me. I was like almost crying blood. I was so angry and upset. Um, so the day after, when I got home, I felt guilty because I had been in Delaware and I felt like the kids were bored. So we decided to take a day trip, and I took them to Old Saybrook, where they were, I told you, I think the other day, having that elf challenge where you had to find the elves in all the different stores. Well, unfortunately, I also had to stop at the antique store because it's May, and Teddy needs to stop at the antique store because that's where some of the vintage, like the retro gaming stuff is. He finds like the N64 stuff. Well, I found this. I found this display of imported carpets, and they are beautiful, big loomed oriental carpets, but two hooked rugs. And you know, normally I don't go for these kinds of rugs. I have plenty. I need to get rid of them. I need to sell like 90% of my rugs. I can't do anything with them. I'm tired of storing them. So I don't normally look for rugs anymore. And, you know, um, I saw these, and maybe it was because I had been to Hagley House the day before and I had seen all of Louise's really pretty pink hooked rugs. But man, this hit me right in the heart. Like, I just, I like gasped when I saw these two rugs. One of them is a long runner, and that has the cranberry border with the pink roses, a bit more like Tudor Lancaster style rose, very structural rose. And the other one on the floor is more of a room carpet, still very big, kind of raspberry rose border. So this is the runner one. And I'm sure these are commercial patterns, but I just thought this was exceptionally pretty. And this does feel like a real English rose, like it feels like the Tudor rose to me in the center. I don't know. The person who made these rugs, the same person made both of these rugs. And it was somebody local in Connecticut. I found that out because the dealer was there. And he saw me looking at them, and of course he wanted to interact. And I did too, because I was sincerely interested. But I said, you know, and I think I said this on Monday, like, were there others? And he said, no, these were the two. So I felt like I really had to have them, because if there had been others, then I would feel like, okay, well, I kind of like missed the boat and the others are gone, and it's a collection that's no longer intact. But since I know that these are the only two that he got out of the house, it, at least in my mind, I can run the pretty story that the woman who made these two, these are her two, or these are the two that made it right through the years. These look like mid 20th century rugs. She was definitely a graphic hooker. She was not a realistic hooker. While this could be a McGowan pattern, she definitely was not McGowan certified or learning from a McGowan teacher. But I love the style of these rugs. This is my favorite style. And I'm sure you noticed how colorful and pretty the feather scrolls are. You can see the front side and the back side of the rug in this shot. There's no damage to either of these rugs. They are both enormous and huge, and you're going to die when I tell you this, but he thought I was prepared to haggle, which I wasn't because they were already inexpensive. But he said to me, I would do them both for $150. And I said, oh my God, sold. Absolutely sold. I'm not leaving them there for another second because people will walk on them. They'll become dirty and worthless and they'll be damaged. And I want these rugs. And I have these rugs and I love these rugs. And they also remind me of the upcoming Rose book. So everything was slotting into place. Do you notice in the middle of that corner motif, they've done like a little bit, she's done a little bit of hit or miss just in the corner. Like there's something so pretty and different about these rugs. I just felt like when I was looking at them that I was sitting next to this woman watching her go through her rag bag, choosing all these colors. I mean, they're just beautiful. They're beautiful, and they're such a good find. Start the car. Such a good find. So, you know, this is another good find. I did not go for this rug. You see the Three Bears rug up top? It is lovely. It was, I think it was, I want to say, like $4.95. And maybe it was $5.95. It was at the 5 or 5+ mark. And yes, I think it's worth it because this is the second most popular blue nose pattern of all time after the blue nose schooner. It's the Three Bears. And it is beautifully done. It has very little damage. It's a little roughed up around the edges. I like a little bit of loss that there is. Weirdly, you can see one boot really clear and a little bit of outlining. The rest of it's quite faded. This is one side of it. I did not have the person take it down for me. I did not want to, sorry, spam risk. I did not want to wind them up. I really like this side of it. I love the pinks and the light blues. I am going to keep my eye on this rug. That's too much because I just picked up one of these rugs recently. I think I showed it to you a couple weeks ago for free. It's got a ton of damage, but I will fix it. I will fix it in a video. And I'd like to have this one too. I think it's a fair price. It's Christmas, you know. I can't justify buying that as well. Yes, that's the Halloween one, Nikki. I did a version of that that's like a Halloween one. I love that. I love that one. I was hooking that one. I had to put it down. I'll pick it up again next fall. So this is me and Shannon at the end of the night. This is the last video, the last photo for today before we go to the table where we're going to hook. We went to see a play in Wilmington, a holiday play at a theater. And, you know, I'm very happy. Let's hope that this business stops with the camera because I'm going to bring you down here. You know what it is? I bet, you know what? I feel like I know what it is. It's that the camera's getting the sun. That's what it is. Hang on. I think I can fix this. Holy mackerel. I think I did it. All right, let's see. Hang on. Let's see. Ho, ho, ho. How stupid am I? Well, we'll measure that later. We'll measure that later. So come with me here. I'm going to move you there. I'm going to do some tricky stuff. Hang on. Stay with me while I fool around for a minute. Come with me here. Yeah, come with me to the table. And I can put my lamp back on. There we go. So here we are. So I want to do something with my raggedy rag balls. And I'm so curious about how they're going to hook with all of these beautiful colors, right? Darks and lights. So this has potential to be a bit of a pig's breakfast. Let me just get the lights right. So let's get everything else out of the scene because it will distract me. What I want to do is something really simple on this little piece of scrap linen that I have. And I thought, you know what, let's still do it the right way, right? So I'm going to, you know, talking about colonial revival and all of that, there were a lot of trays and painted trays, right? Because painting trays, metal trays, was one of those big colonial era sort of occupations. People loved to paint the trays. So I was thinking about making kind of a tray design in the center. So let me think on this for 1 second because we don't want to screw it up right out of the gate. But I was thinking about kind of a soft, let's see, something like this. Maybe a bit more exaggerated. Well, let's see how that looks. I don't want to make it like super complicated, but let's see how this looks as a tray design. I just wanted something that wasn't exactly, maybe I'll do this a bit rounded. That wasn't exactly a rectangle, you know, just something a little bit softer, different. Let's see if that is going to work out as a shape. It's very square, isn't it? You know, maybe that's okay though. No, I think I want it. No, I think I want it smaller. But I do like the shape. Let's stick with the shape, and we'll just modify it. Because what I want is a big border to hook the rag stuff. So let's do like this. I think that I made too much of a knobby knob right there. Oh crap, now I did it. Now I did it. Crap. How would I do that? Well, let's see, maybe I can modify it. Still a square. Seriously, what the hell is wrong with me? But you know, this could work because I was planning to put a B in the middle. All right. Yeah, let's keep going. I think I got this. Just want to be sure you're good there. So let's do this. I'm going to, yeah, I can put a B right in the center there. Let me just trace around here. You know, I'm going to make it just a hair smaller. All right, let's not do that same stupid thing again. Let's do, oh, you know what? Maybe I want it like this. I think that's what I want. Maybe I want it like that. Because I'm thinking about the bee's wings. You know how it makes like a V in the center of the body because the wings shoot out. So I want to kind of plan to accommodate that in my, but you know, I think I'm still making it more of a rectangle than I want. So let me do this. And of course, if you're doing something like this, you're doing this with me, spend time, make sure you got it the right way. Oh, you know what? I kind of like that. That looks like kind of like a tavern sign. Let's go with that. Yeah, let's go with that. I like that. So I'm just going to trace around this. This is my stencil. And it ain't going to be perfect, but I'm going to have a guide at least. And my plan is, in anticipation of the Magpie issue, Busy Bees, I want to do like, I want to make like an old-fashioned bee in there, just with his wings spread, like real pretty, very simple. So I do want to have, and I can touch all this up a little bit later, I do want to have a nice border on it. And I was thinking, what would I want to put in the border? Ooh, I might want to put all my rags. There we go. So that's going to be where the bee goes. So let's just make a border. I'm going to probably go out as far as I can. You know, I don't need to make a border, right? I'm just going to go out as far as I can. So let's do it. Let's do it. So I've got my little frame, right, that we play with when we do silly stuff. And I'm just going to kind of nudge this over to the side. Now this is going to drive me crazy. I got all this crap over here, but just ignore that, right? Don't look over there. It's too crappy. So let me get this up here. And sometimes I keep that cuff on because it protects me from the, I'll put it on if I need it, but right now I'm sweating. Something's off. There we go. So I'm just going to attack this area here. Let's see what, and I'll show you as I go along. My little needle minder on here. Let's just attack this and see how it goes. So what I'm going to do first is let me grab this rag ball that I started breezing through. Hey Judy, I'll see you later. I'll probably be on for another 10 minutes, maybe 15. We'll see how much fun it is doing this. And I might end up doing the rest of it in a video later. We'll see how it goes. So I just caught the end of one of the rag balls. So let's see how it hooks. Sorry, I got to get rid of this. That is driving me nuts. I am not a neat freak, really. I'm sure you've noticed, but holy mackerel. Chaos. Chaos to my eyes. There we go. Right. Let's see. I'm going to give this a quick run, and I think I'm going to keep my tails down because I don't, you know, right now this material that I'm using, and I'd really like to get you closer. Let me see if I can get you closer. Well, I'll just lift it up in a second. The material that I'm using right now feels like a taffeta, so it's probably a silk. It's very, very crunchy and crispy. The thing that you need to worry about when you're hooking with these old rag balls or old material in general, you know, is integrity. Now, this is holding up, I have to say, remarkably well. It's pretty, it's making good lofty loops. I'll show you in a second. I'm trying to feel with my hands. It's going to be a while before I hit the next color, actually. I'm kind of wishing that I made this larger because those loops are looking just fine for super old material. That has got to be silk, silk taffeta, or maybe not Dupioni, but one of those very crispy, papery silks. I'm questioning whether any of these are rayon. I think this is all quite old material. They might all be different silks. How many silks are there? There's infinite silks. You know, how many machines figured out how to make silk material in what sort of order or pattern? And think about the way a loom works, right? It's infinite. All of those materials that were produced have different names. That's why some people say silk chatons, silk Dupioni, sari silk, right? These are all different things. Oh, I think I'm hitting a color change. Yeah, do you see that? A blue just came up. Now, it could well be that as I hook along, sorry, I'm just getting a feel for this one to see if it's okay or if it's going to be. It's okay. I was afraid it was going to rip or become difficult. It's definitely not. Gosh, this is a very good silk ball. You just don't know. You know, you just don't know. It could be that if you get a ball like this, you see them at an antique store, you think, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to fill in my next background with one of these silk balls. I'm going to do a hit or miss. That's why I drew a border, right? Because I'm going to have a picture in here. This is going to be completely independent of what I do on my border here. The border can be colorful as anything. Oh, oh, oh. You see that little checkered material, that one loop that came up? So it is changing often. I'm going to move that back just a hair. Maybe I shouldn't have done the tray design. It doesn't read super well. It reads a bit messy. I don't know that I care, though, to be honest. I think it's going to be so pretty. I'm going to do a black center or possibly a white center in here with the bee on it. And I have to be careful with this hook because this is the Miller hook. It's got that strong curl. Have to be careful that that curl doesn't rip this old material. What I'm doing to be careful is when I push it in, I'm pulling it back. You see me pulling backward on it so that it's not scraping the loop as it comes through the surface. I'm going on my way to make sure it doesn't scrape. This one is a little more fragile. So far, so good. Man, and this one even changes color. I got a little bit of pink in that. It might have been a stain. Isn't that gorgeous? So when you see this stuff in stores, think about it. Just be aware that, you know, people have been making rag balls. Like my grandmother made rag balls, right? In like the 80s, she was still making rag balls. Like she still kept extra. And those materials are very different. So, you know, whether or not you want to work with the material, ooh, I've got a problem now in that I've got the black. And I like the black, but that means I can't have a black center now, right? Because that would be confusing. So I'm going to have to rethink the black center. If you like the materials that are present in the rag ball, then you should get the rag ball. Sometimes I see rag balls that are a little bit later in the 20th century, and it's like, yes, they're vintage. Yes, it's a rag ball. See, that one broke right in my hand. So it might be that this one is not going to be okay, but let's keep trying. So all that really matters, I'm going to try to rehook that. You see, this one's coming apart just like paper. This is super, super fine silk. As long as you love the colors, you should be good. The cotton ones, the cotton rag balls, are also extremely fragile in some cases. They can be very brittle. This one color is very brittle. Okay, I said I wasn't going to bring tails up, but that tail came up, and I'm going to preserve it on the surface because I'm happy that I got that. And you see the mess it made of all the pieces. It like atomized and turned to powder. You see that? So it will be pretty, but I'm not gonna test that one's strength too much. I'm trying to see where we left off. Oh no, I lost the end. Here it is. Ooh, yeah, I can feel it ripping in my hands. All right, so, oh yeah, look at that one. You see what I mean? That's really, well, I got to push my luck. Let's try to do a couple more. I don't want to torture it, but if I can safely get it into this backing, I'll feel really good about that. Okay, it just did it again. See if I can get a few more loops. It literally is turning to powder in my hand. I'm not testing it too much, right? If it doesn't, yeah, it's just not going to. So, you know, maybe I'll leave those loops there as, you know, to honor the blue, but this one does not want to hook. It doesn't want to do much. It's really brittle. I can feel a little knob under it. Let me see if I can get that up. There we go. All right, so I'm going to give up on that color. It's very pretty, right? And you see the change from black to blue. It's very pretty, but it does not want to play. So let's not make it play. It's tired. It's lovely and it's tired. I'm just going to come to the end of the blue. Yeah, I mean, I can feel it in my hands. I could just rip it. I'm not going to, though. Even though I'm not going to use it, I feel bad hurting it. You know what I mean? It's made it quite a while, this little guy. So I can come back to the black if I want, and maybe I do, but I'm also kind of eager to check out this lighter color and see how that hooks. So let me I'm just going to come here to black and cut it, right? Because the black was working just fine. You can do that. There's no reason why not. Let me come back here and see if I can squeeze. And you see as I'm hooking tons of bits of papery material coming up from that blue. Okay, I got a good solid loop there. So let's do a couple of these. Being very, very careful. See, this black is thicker, so that must mean it's a little bit wider than when we did that black, because I'm having a hell of a time pulling it up. See if I can get one more loop. I can feel the join is right there. Let's see. You might be looking at this and thinking, I don't need, there we go. I'll show you that in a sec. You might be sitting there thinking, I don't need this kind of headache. Why is she doing this? Well, I'm doing this because this is a beautiful old rag bag that someone was saving for something. Can you see that pinky pink? And they didn't do the something that they were planning to do with this rag ball. And I found the rag ball. I found it in Pennsylvania, and I want to do something with it. I want to use it. Somebody spent a lot of time cutting that rag, and you know, not only is the rag ball made of material that's been cut, it's folded over. And in some cases it looks almost like it's been, well, this is just folded over here. In some cases it looks like it's been pressed like with you know, the seam pressers that fold the edges under like this, the contemporary seam pressers that you use with the iron to make binding. In some cases it looks like that. So somebody really took, I'm going to come back to a little bit here. Somebody really took, I'll do half and halfies, so I'm partly in it. You can sort of talk to me. Don't look at this mess over here. Get rid of that. Oh, wow. Wait till you see these color changes. I think I'm going to finish this in a video another time. I'm not going to give up on this project. This is too dang cute. Wait till you see the colors. Wait till you see these colors. Okay, Louise DuPont would have loved. Do you see the pinks and the lights up on top there? It's very subtle. The super sages, the sort of clay taupey color, and then go backwards, right, from the top toward the light green to the light pink. A couple of the navies that I got up that really made that papery mess, and then the blacks, and then going down the side, the checkers, the blues, and then the brown, right? I'll take a better picture of this, but my God, that really is so pretty. So pretty. I'm really excited. So I wasn't sure that I would enjoy doing this, and I enjoy doing this insanely and immensely. So I'm going to I'm going to keep going on that. Oh, hey, Heather. It is going to be beautiful. And you know, once I finish getting as much of the border, I want to, if I can go right to the, I want to see how far I can get with both of those balls. And then I'll figure out how to get a little bee, maybe a beehive. I might go with a beehive instead of a bee. Maybe I'll do that. And maybe I'll do it, let's think about color later. I might do it white with like a gold beehive. That'd be great for the magpie issue. And then in my mind, I know that I have used these rag balls, right? I think they even came in this basket. I mean, that just makes me feel great. And it makes me feel like I'm doing something colonial revival style to loop back, because this is what people did. This is how they worked. So when you say to yourself, how was a hooked rug made? How do they make hooked rugs? This is how they made them, like with bits of scraps like this, and then they just hooked them. And that's why we have so many hit or miss rugs out there. This is going to be a lot of fun. And in a weird way, wasn't it also fun that like all this papery stuff kind of broke off one? Because we were wondering, do they all perform well at this point in time? You know, in 2024, does all of this old material perform well? The answer is no, it doesn't. But you see, I still squeezed out a couple of loops of that navy because I want that navy in here, because that navy was in that rag ball, right? The person who put this together included this navy. You can be sure I'm going to try to use it again because I'm so stubborn. So I will finish recording this in a video, probably not today, as I've got lots to get up to today. But hey, it was great including this episode with you. I had a lot of fun. Where did you buy the rag ball? Lisa, I bought the rag ball near you in Pennsylvania at a big antique store in the Lancaster area. I know that doesn't help, but there's a town that has like honestly 100 antique stores on one street. It was that town, and I would never remember the store again. But I saw them. I saw them all over the place. It was just, they don't always appeal to me color-wise, but these did appeal to me because they looked so Victorian. And I thought, ooh, one of these days the right project is going to come along. What do you think? Do you think I should make a square border instead of the wiggly tavern sign border? Let me know what you think. I can't decide. I don't have to decide right now. But I'm going to make this part safe, and I'm going to cut this a little bit further along because I want that whole colorful strip here. You think I should do a square? I could even it out. You know what I could do is bring it in a little bit smaller and make a square. I think I'll do that. It'll be more tidy, right? That'll be more tidy. So I kept this colorful light. See how it almost looks like a kimono. I kept that intact and I cut further back. That's the other thing about these rag balls is if you're working on your piece and, for example, you only want a dark background, and you come up with a lot of lights, right? You just cut them off as you go, put them in a different basket, and save those for when you need a white background. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. I'm collecting the fairy dust in my hand from the navy. I will see you all soon. I won't be with you on Friday, right? Tomorrow is tree decorating day in my mom's house, so we're going to go pick out a tree and decorate that. But I will let you know when I will be around again. It'll probably be next, maybe I'll do next Thursday and next Friday. We're going to have to see how that shakes out. Stay tuned for the next live show. In the meantime, I'll try to get some videos done. I'm getting caught up on orders, getting everything done and ready. And hey, I will see you all as soon as I can. In the meantime, it was fun to see you too. In the meantime, have a great afternoon, everybody. Be looking for those new videos that are coming out, and I will see you all soon.